Witajcie kochani, jesteśmy w Brukseli, w Belgii.
My name is Frank Zioen. I'm living in Belgium in Zonhoven, which is close to Hasselt. I'm working in Brussels for the European Network on Independent Living, which is a grassroots disability rights organization. So we promote the rights for independent living for all disabled people everywhere in Europe, and yeah, as is in the name, we focus mostly on the European level, but we also work with the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disability and try to watch out for good practices on the national level as well. And yeah, this is I think introduction.
I wspomaga mnie oczywiście nasz gospodarz, czyli
Marek, która pracuje w Brukseli od 2 lat. Jestem posłem do Parlamentu Europejskiego.
Witamy Was serdecznie. Będziemy zadawać pytania naszemu gospodarzowi, czyli Belgowi, i zapytamy go, jak radzi sobie i jak żyje mu się po prostu w Belgii. First question for you. What are the most popular sposoby, kurczę, ways to activate the people on wheelchairs in Belgium?
Well, Belgium has several disability rights and independent living organizations as well. One of them who is very active is onafhankelijk leven in Flanders. So they they promote also independent living and personal assistance and stuff, and they organize lots of things, like they organize petitions and demonstrations, but they also organize something is called Café Pyrénées, which is Café Pyrénées, and Pyrénées is with the mountains, so that it is impossible for people in wheelchairs or other disabled people to access certain cafes or restaurants, and they then go to these cafes and restaurants to show that it is not accessible. So I think those are a few ways that how activism is done in Belgium. It's done through through going through the streets and protesting, but also by raising awareness and talking to policymakers about what can be improved, or to sometimes publish something in the media. But yeah, I think the organizations like GRIP and Onafhankelijk Leven are really active in promoting and keeping independent living and disability rights in the media as well. So
activization. Second question is social treatment in Belgium. When a person on a wheelchair became disabled, what country, what is the help which that person have from country?
So we have actually two kinds of help. There is the social security, which everybody gets. I think you get an allowance for reintegration and to make your inclusion possible. So this is an extra benefit. But there is also the personal assistance budget system, which is a great system where you can have a budget to pay for your personal assistance, and the disabled person controls the budget. But the main problem with this is that I think now 3,000 and something disabled people have it in Belgium, but there is a waiting list of, I mean, you've doubled that number. So there is a very long waiting list, and some people are on the waiting list for 5 or 6 years and still don't have this personal assistance. So I think the system is great because the disabled person controls the budget, and he can use it for all the support needs. He can decide him or herself how to use it. And in general also the social security system is good, but the main problem of course are the waiting lists. And of course in education there is still a lot of segregation, there is still a lot of special schools. Inclusive education is not really achieved yet, although in theory now there is new legislation since this year which should promote inclusive education, but as there is no budget, it doesn't really work. And unfortunately, also still a lot of people live in institutions. So that is also one of the problems in Belgium. Still, that institutions are well established, and then of course have a lot of influence to also make sure that they have the appropriate amount of funding and stuff. And of course, they have a function, but it's a pity that the disabled persons are still mostly in institutions, and it would be better if the money that goes to institutions goes to this personal assistance budget, because then the waiting lists would be gone. So yeah.
Funding the persons on wheelchairs or disabled people beside a system of a country. What is it percent from the podatki,
tax?
Beside the tax, just beside so.
You mean the social?
Social funding.
Yeah. By
the
how it's in the as I said, because there is still a lot of segregation in education and also in living conditions. It's still a bit how to say it. It's not that people accept disabled people and then they really try to be inclusive, but because most of the people never come into contact with a disabled person, it stays a bit strange. They are a bit afraid of interacting, because they think, oh, how should I approach this disabled person? So this is, I think, an issue that, well, there should be more attention given to disability in the schools, or indeed inclusive education would be the best way, so that people are used to interacting and talking to disabled people, and not afraid of saying something wrong or these things.
I think about founding their life, about beside the country system. Is it
okay?
Is it
No. You mean if there are any foundations to
foundations or
not so much. I mean, of course, there are some initiatives. For instance, when a disabled person wants to go on a Erasmus project or something, then he can raise money for this, or he can apply with certain foundations, but not as a general system. It's mostly based on the government system and the social security system. So there is no really systematic social funding for disabled people.
Okay. What about business and founding a business in Belgium by country to the people with disabilities when they want to open up something like small business or company?
If they get support from the state when they want to set it up. When I don't really know how it works when you want to set up a business, but I know that when you are looking for a job and you want to be hired for something, then the employer for the first half year gets doesn't have to pay the social taxes. So then you just base your wage, which is the brut is then the net wage, and then after this, after some time, there is like 25% of the taxes, and then it's 50%, and then it goes up as the longer you stay working. But if you want to set up a business, I don't really know how that works. The only thing I do still know is that when a business employs a disabled person, this business get also funding to make their office accessible. So this is also something.
I understand. And what is possibilities in learning, in growing up, in some other ways beside funding, beside money, and what is like to be the person in a wheelchair, with disability, and how to learn.
You mean the school or also
School and beside the school for the maybe for work, but not exactly passions or learning some other stuff.
Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, the schools are still very not inclusive. So some disabled people can go to a mainstream education, but it's still, most of them are not. So that's still something that needs to be worked on. But then after school, when you go to university or education after this, then it becomes more inclusive, because then the segregated education system stops, and then of course there is only the university. So then it becomes more inclusive, and then after the university and to do the hobbies and other learning activities, I think teams and scouts and everything, they are open to it, but you see that the issue is still a bit that they don't really know what disability is, so that they are afraid of it in some ways, and also that there are still a lot of initiatives that are especially for disabled people. So then it's also segregation in the way that non-disabled people cannot access them. So that is, I think it's good that there is maybe some initiative that aims at for example, there is a karate initiative for disabled people. I can understand that it has to be more aimed towards disabled people, but then I think to make it inclusive, it should be good that everybody could join. So then I think that this would be better. But so it's a bit the same in non-formal or after school education. There are more than in education inclusive initiatives, which is good, but the majority of them are still not inclusive. So this should also change, I think. But for the school, it's more segregated than the other initiatives.
And the last one, and I think my favorite, it's physical boundaries. How about this?
I think for this, and I think that your journey is there a really good example. But there are still a lot of boundaries in Belgium. When you know where you want to go and you know the city, like Brussels, I've been working in Brussels for a year, and now I start to know which streets I can take with the wheelchair and which streets have cobblestones or high pavement or all those things that I cannot take. But also the public transport is not accessible. I mean, it is, but you have to make a reservation 24 hours in advance, and it's very complicated. So there are still a lot of improvements to be made there, like to the general infrastructure, to the public transport, but also to the general opinion of when people are building new stores or new banks or new public places, that accessibility is not really taken into account. It's just a box they take, and then they make some mistakes, like the example I gave during the lunch, that they build an accessible train station, but only 2 of the 4 rails are accessible. So those things are still happen, and of course this is not good. And I think the physical boundaries are still plenty, but the good thing also, as I said, is that it is too slowly moving in the good direction. So I think as long as this continues to be the case, I think it's good to. I think we can be positive that in the near future it will improve.
Zadając to pytanie, przejdziemy do naszego gospodarza i zapytamy, jak się żyje w Brukseli, jakby człowiekowi, który nie żyje w Brukseli na co dzień, a jedynie przyjeżdża tutaj do pracy. Jak to jest? Czy ludzie, jak reagują ludzie na człowieka, który jeździ na wózku, ale nie rozmawia w ich języku na przykład?
To mój czas, który spędzam w Brukseli, to pochłaniam w większości jednak praca w samym parlamencie. Rzadko kiedy mam spotkania na zewnątrz, a jeszcze rzadziej mogę zbadać, jak się żyje tym codziennym życiem. Ale powiem może w ten sposób, zaskakująco wiele barier tutaj spotykam i przykre jest to, że one pojawiają się także w miejscach, które ulegają renowacji. W Polsce na ogół, tam gdzie powstaje nowy chodnik, nowa ulica, to jednak ona jest już tworzona raczej bez tych uprzykrzających nam życie barier. Do tego trzeba trochę dołożyć barier wynikających z zabytkowości tego miasta. Bruk dla nas wózkowiczów, miejski bruk, to nie jest najlepsze rozwiązanie. A chociaż może odrobina masażu też takiego mechanicznego czasem się przydaje. Natomiast chciałbym podkreślić, że Parlament Europejski to ogromna instytucja i one często bywają mało aktywne, ale jednak w przypadku posłów, którzy doświadczają różnych rodzajów niepełnosprawności, służby parlamentarne bardzo dobrze sobie radzą. Jestem w tej chwili jedyną osobą, która porusza się na wózku spośród grona posłów do Europarlamentu. Mamy dwoje kolegów, którzy posługują się językiem migowym. To jest koleżanka pani poseł z Belgii i kolega z Węgier. I jedna z naszych koleżanek, pani poseł z Grecji, jest osobą całkowicie niewidomą. I z naszych wspólnych doświadczeń wynika to, co rzeczywiście może być przykładem w innych miejscach, bo to nas zapytano, czego potrzebujemy, co mogłoby nam pomagać w codziennej pracy. Czasem są to drobiazgi, czasem trzeba było przebudować niektóre wejścia do parlamentu, czy jeśli o mnie chodzi, to o to ustawić pochylnie podjazdy w niektórych salach, tak żeby mógł na równych prawach chociażby prowadzić konferencje czy debaty z pozycji prezydium. To wszystko wymagało najpierw tego, żebyśmy usiedli przy wspólnym stole, pomyśleli o tym, co możemy zrobić i rzeczywiście później w ciągu kilku miesięcy te wszystkie udogodnienia tutaj się pojawiły. To, co często także podkreślają moi goście, albo również moja asystentka, stażystka właściwie, która była jako pierwsza osoba na wózku staż w Europarlamencie w tym roku, to faktycznie braki dostępności komunikacji miejskiej. Myślę, że niewiele więcej niż połowa autobusów miejskich to pojazdy niskopodłogowe. W dodatku nie zawsze kierowca, który prowadzi ten autobus, jest przeszkolony do tego, żeby użyć tych technicznych możliwości, co bywa już zupełnie przykre. Także musimy sobie na mieście dawać radę raczej o własnych siłach albo w gronie przyjaznych ludzi.
No i takie same doświadczenia możemy spotkać w Polsce, w sensie bariery architektoniczne, jak i bariery w komunikacji publicznej. Niestety. Ale cały czas wszystko idzie do przodu, tak jak słyszeliśmy, w Belgii, jak i w Polsce, więc jesteśmy dobrej myśli. A na dzisiaj dziękujemy bardzo panu posłowi i naszemu gospodarzowi Belgowi. Dziękuję.
Nie mogę wejść swobodnie do sklepu, bo spotykam przysłowiową barierę 3 schodków. Jeżeli nie mogę swobodnie porozumieć się w sądzie za pomocą języka migowego, jeżeli nie mogę na produkcie odczytać napisu, bo jestem niewidomy, a nie ma tam pisma Braille'a, to znaczy, że jestem dyskryminowany.